Okay, let's get started. All right. Good afternoon, evening, everyone who's joining us. Welcome to today's stream. It's gonna be kind of low key today. I'm feeling kind of low energy, so we're gonna just kind of focus on the editing today. I don't know. We'll see. I often get a lot of energy from you guys, so we'll see if you guys pick me up. But yeah, we're just gonna focus on the photography, which will be nice. If you're new to the channel, I'm Eric. Welcome. We're gonna be editing some of my photography today and discussing a little bit the artistic process, the decisions made, and the directions, that I choose to go from a unedited image to a final product. So if you have any comments or questions, if you are if you're new to the channel or if you're returning, I'm all about making this as much of a dialogue as possible. But yeah, we welcome comments, questions. If there's anything I do that you want to know more about, or you want to know why I did it, or you want to tell me you think I'm completely off base and I should be, doing something different, by all means, please. If you are a photographer or a creative artist of any kind, please feel free to drop your website, your work, links to your stories or your videos or your photos in the chat or in the comments of the video. Those are welcome, and as much as this is my platform, I'd love it to be yours as well. Hey Jen, welcome. I'm trying to think. The other thing that I always say is that the reason I do this, apart from the fact that it does give me a good amount of personal joy, is that I want to demystify post-processing of photography as much as I can. So often post-processing is hidden behind a paywall, or it's dangled, or in front of people, or it's not even, or it's kind of not discussed, and that is seems like a glaring omission in the photography world. So I do this to share that. So that, and also in some ways just to give us an idea of what we can be capable of with photo editing. So often we take a photo and we look at it and we're like, yeah, that's I think that works, and there's so much we can do in post these days. So that's what we're going to talk about. Couple real quick little housekeeping announcements. Postcards still available. Got a few of them. These are postcards with some of my best work from national and state parks around the United States. You can order them from my Etsy store or my personal website, which if you go to erichackler.com/photography, you can find links to both of those. And cool thing is, I'm hitting the mic, on the back is a QR code that will have that if you send a postcard to somebody, they can scan that, fill out a form, and short form, and add their postcards to the map so they can all see where their postcards have gone, which is pretty awesome. So that's those are available. That's a thing. And one other thing that is super cool that I wasn't gonna bring up, but I might as well. Hey Stephanie, and I assume hello to Evelyn and Mia. You two are continually awesome. Please continue being amazing. The other cool thing that I get to share with you guys is I try to, as much as I can via my Facebook page and my Instagram, try to share when I get published, when my photos get accepted to magazines and so on. Cool new thing today that I've only got I've got it on my tablet. I don't have a printout of it yet, but so I submit to magazines. I don't, if I get accepted, it is at that point their choice what they do with them. In this case, Top Posters magazine made one of my Glacier Bay photos their cover. So yeah, Top Posters magazine. I believe this one is available. I share. I've got links to all of this available if anyone wants them. But yeah, so yeah, one of my photos from Glacier Bay, which is a little blown out, but has been selected not only for publication but as the cover photo for a February issue of Top Posters magazine. So that's a cool thing to be excited about. Anyway, all of that said, I try to keep these intros under 5 minutes, and I'm already wrong. Already at 6. So let's go ahead and get us right into Lightroom. So, gonna start with some more Fort Monroe photography. For some reason, I took a bunch of photos that day, and I was like, these are phenomenal. I love them. I'm really excited to edit them. And then I've been sitting here working through them, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And part of that, I think, is an embarrassment of riches that these photos are so much I could do with them that I'm having trouble finding the path. But this one's easy. This one's super awesome. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, Jen. That's wonderful. Thank you both. It is. It brings me joy to share it. It really brings me joy to share it in a very low key way. I've never been good about cheerleading myself, but I'm happy it happened, and I'm happy that I can share it with you guys. So, and that photo, along with I believe every other photo that's published in that series, is available on my website. So that you can, if you're interested in owning a copy, you absolutely can. So okay, so here's this photo of this seagull who I'm just chill friends with. I love the just the sharpness in his eye and I love the way he looks. I got his cool reflection down here. So we're just gonna, I've already cropped this to kind of what I think it should be. I think I want to take a little bit more off the bottom, but yeah, he's looking good. He's looking good in the center there. I like pretty much everything about this. I just need to edit it up. I want that back. I want this is maybe somewhere, split the difference a little bit, something like that. There we go. Okay, so yeah, let's start working on this guy. Step 1, highlights got to come down a little bit. I don't think he's overexposed. He's not overexposed, but he's still a little bit. I'll put this back. Is he? Nah, still, even then he's fine, but still a little bit hot on his feathers. So we want to make sure we keep the detail in there, which is good. To counterbalance that, I'm going to bring up the shadows, which will kind of get our brightness back up and help us notice the blue. I love something I didn't notice when I took the photo. I love the like the blue sort of like I guess this is a result of the water and the light flowing across the little ridges in the sand. But let me zoom this out a little bit. That gives me that puts me in mind of like light coming down through the water on top of a pool onto the that kind of cool crosshatch rippling. And so that is a cool thing to have in the center. I might try to enhance that a little bit. All right, we can dehaze a bit, which will help separate him from the background. Clarity, no. This is a photo that if I'm gonna play with clarity, I'm gonna do it with masks. I think the same. Actually bringing the texture up on everything is pretty cool. I actually like that. What happens if I bring the texture all the way up? That's gonna be, doesn't look too bad. I might bring it up all the way on him. I'm gonna kind of half it as a global adjustment. Coming down here to color, I want to bring up orange. Orange is kind of my secondary color to this, and I want to bring that up. Yellow, not so much. Yellow I kind of want to leave more or less as is. His legs and his beak and his eye already stand out very nice. I'm gonna bring it up a tiny bit, but there's also this kind of yellow underlighting on him, and I don't want to enhance that too much. I look like if I crank that up, I'm like, for some reason I know it's reflected light and it's like a totally natural thing to me. It looks like he wet himself, so we're gonna not lean into that. We can actually brighten the stuff up a little bit, which is good. We bring the oranges up a little bit like that. If I bring up the reds are good to bring up. Reds are good to bring up here. This is the thing. If you've seen me editing beach photos before, you know that I'm an absolute sucker for all of the reds and the myriad of colors that kind of hang out in the sand and in the pebbles. So bringing those up is something I like to do. Where's Aqua hanging out in this photo? A little bit in the background. It's kind of giving us a nice little gentle wash. Let's bring that up. And the blue is obviously going to be really strong, so we're going to do a little bit less of that. Aquas, yeah, we're going to bring up the aquas because I always talk up like some pairs of colors, orange and yellow, aqua and blue, purple and magenta. If they're present, usually if one is present, the other one is, and there's usually one that is stronger. So bringing here with luminance, if I leave them both aqua and blue as is, it looks like that and it looks good. If I bring up the blues, you're getting kind of blue is affecting everything. It's some of the shadow on his wings, it's the water up here, it's the whole thing. Blue affects everything. Aqua doesn't. Aqua only affects certain areas, and by doing that, by giving a strong difference between the aqua level and the blue level, you get contrast, and thus more detail, and thus makes it more interesting. So, yeah, we're going to do that. I don't think the same is sort of true here with orange and yellow, but not to the same degree, just because there's not a huge amount of orange in this photo. It's mostly, and the yellow and the orange are already stark, so I don't need to tweak them to create contrast. Gotcha. I'm waving to Maria Lisa. You should all wave to her. She is wonderful.
Oh, thank you. You're wonderful.
She thinks I'm wonderful. I think she might be right, but I'm scared to say that in public, so, take that with a grain of whatever the nearest spice you have to hand is.
Shout out from the rooftops. You're wonderful.
I'm kind of a low energy stream. Why are you coming in here with this bright and happy exuberance? Take your muppetry somewhere else. Okay. All right. So this is So we got the color work pretty much done. Stephanie says hi and says we're both wonderful, and she can get out of here with that kindness.
No, and also Stephanie is wonderful.
Stephanie is wonderful, and you're talking too loud. I feel like I'm hungover.
Is it alright?
I'm fine. I'm low energy. I'm just kind of
I'll take my energy somewhere else then.
Okay. When you make an exit, you make an exit. I have no idea how much of that you guys heard. I only heard that. You gotta get that door fixed. Oh, anyway. Okay, so let's see what happens when I tell Lightroom to select our subject. See how much of this I get. Lightroom is usually really good at it with people and decent with animals. That's pretty perfect. I'm debating if I want the legs in there, the reflection of the legs. Yeah, let's keep that because I'm playing with texture. So that's fine. Cranking up the texture on the reflection helps guide us into the reflection. I'm happy about that. I'm not gonna be able to get the reflection otherwise. I could do it with a brush, but it would end up. Let's do that. Let's do an add brush real quick. Density's already down. That's fine. Let me see the overlay. Okay, and then I'm just gonna lightly sort of do some gentle bits here on our reflection, just to sort of give that a little bit more. The one thing I worry about with this photo is that if I turn that off, on a little of extra sharpness, I can be happy with that. The one thing I worry about with this photo is that the first thing my eye is drawn to is his eye, which is great. That's awesome, and that's the thing that makes me really happy. But if I'm doing a cursory glance, I only notice the eye. I don't notice the reflection, and I want to, as much as I want to give the reflection a bit of, as much character as possible. Of course, now I said that, I'm going to go ahead and pump and make his eye look even cooler, because that's my favorite kind of icing on the cake thing to finish with. He looks like he's smiling a little bit. Everybody else see that little tiny smile? That's adorable. Is that a interesting? Okay. Let's talk real quick about your histogram up here, because I apparently can't do a stream without nerding out about the histogram. In this case, the two little triangular buttons are up the top show if you're clipping in brightness or darkness. If there's any spots that are so underexposed there's no information, or so overexposed there's no information. And most of the time, with a histogram like this is fine. Like everything is pretty much right in the middle. If I click to turn these on. All right, so like the little bits of his feathers down here are a little underexposed. So if I wanted to brighten them up, it wouldn't happen, but that's fine. They're supposed to be dark. And then brightening, there really doesn't look like there's much compared to, a shot like this, or if I check the overexposure. Actually, even this one's pretty well done. But if I was to crank up the highlights, okay, all of a sudden it's very easy to overexpose a photo, but that's what it would look like if this photo was overexposed. Come back to our friend here. In this case, there doesn't look like there's really any overexposure, but if I zoom in on his beak, there's a little tiny bit right there, which I think is interesting. I think that's kind of funny that there's just that little bit, and that doesn't matter. It's just an interesting thing. Okay, let's come into a nice high percentage to work on his eye. This is not quite a perfect circle because we got that lid, so I'm going to do this with a brush. New mask, brush. Okay. Can I actually do this? Let's bring the density up. I want this to be want to be fully editing him. This actually, I don't always do kind of just the iris. I often try to get the pupil as well, but in this case, I don't really need to, because I'm doing it with a brush. I might as well just, take advantage of that. Okay, it's a little rough, but that's fine. Doesn't need to be. Highlights. Now we're going to zoom out to 100% so we can kind of see the effect of this. I like bringing up the texture, sometimes the clarity. The clarity usually gives a little more contrast, which is nice. Could bring up the contrast, but that tends to brighten, and I want more specific control over that. Could go to the whites. He does have beautiful yellow eyes, doesn't he? And that's not a thing you often say. You often don't see, yellow eyes that are beautiful. Bring the blacks up. We can bring them down a little bit. It kind of makes that color a little bit richer. What does it look like if I zoom in? If I bring it out, that's pretty good. Of course, we could have some fun with it and play with the hue, and give him some kind of we give him nice blue eyes. Do something like that. There we go. Now he's looking really disco, honestly, a little kind of groovy. Not realistic, but certainly fun. We get up the saturation. I think I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. I don't want this to be too. It's standing out too much. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Brightening it up a little more, actually, I think is good. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. That's looking pretty good. Let's see, I got one more thing I think I want to do here. Let's see. I want to do a duplicate and invert. So I'm getting everything that's not our friend. Here, I'm going to bring the clarity down a bit, which will kind of soften up the area around him and give us a little more of a. Yeah, so can I have the exposure on this without losing too much? I can do that. Yeah, I think I want to do that. Okay, so let's put that back. Something like that. There we go. Because I want to brighten the whole thing up and then darken just specific areas so everything looks a little bit sharper. I don't want to bring the contrast down too much, or the clarity down too much, because if I go too far, I get a halo around him, and there's a limit to that. I could dehaze it, but that's not what I want to do. Bringing the texture down is an idea. I don't want to do that. I'm going to do that specifically in a sec. So let's set dehaze at 5. That's probably pretty good. Okay, I like that. Now let's do a new mask. Okay, that's just his eye. Do I want to do a new one, or do I want to just do a duplicate and invert on this? No, I think yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go back to this guy, which has kind of become my master mask. Duplicate and invert again. So now we've got this, and now I'm going to start subtracting. I want to subtract linear gradients here, and this is when I talked about getting that kind of crosshatch pattern in the water. That's what I want this to be about. So we're going to subtract that area, which actually, yeah, we're going to subtract that. So hang on, I'm subtracting the wrong direction. Let's do it like this. There we go. So the mask is like that, but now we're subtracting the stuff above it, which is good. Subtract again with another one. And now we are subtracting the area above, even further above. And because we've already got the subject selected, it means that this mask is not touching that. So all we're getting is just the ground behind him, which is great. Now I'm free to kind of make that thing, make that stuff stand out a little bit. Up the contrast a bit. Clarity down a little bit. Actually, how are we doing on noise real quick? Pretty good, actually. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, zoom back out. Let's see. I'll make sure I don't change the color too much. Make sure it still fits in with the with the photo while still being part of the thing. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Dehaze it a bit. No, let's leave that where it was. Yeah. Set this to 3. Shadows and highlights up and down a little bit. Gives us, helps draw out the contrast in a good way. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, good. All right. I don't think there's anything else I want to do with this guy other than just set his rating to 3 and we'll come back to him. Okay, let's switch to somewhere else. Go back to the library here. I want to show one thing I did. I'm not sure if any of you guys were looking at the moon this past weekend. We had a really nice halo around the moon at one point. And let's see if I go to develop real quick. I'm just gonna expose this up. That's actually not too bad. So yeah, we had a really nice halo around the moon. I haven't done anything with this photo yet, but I did an edit on another one, and I got this. So yeah, had this really cool halo around the moon, which I as far as I know, from what I understand, it's just the light from the sun reflects off the moon and comes back down into the atmosphere, and kind of the same way a lens flare works, it sort of reflects onto the atmosphere that way, and we end up with this cool circular halo around the moon. Something else I learned, this is not quite a corona. You can have coronas around the moon. The difference is that a corona has color in it, sort of similar to the Northern Lights. So this is just a halo because it's just the circle and the light without having the colorful corona. So anyway, wanted to share that real quick. That was a cool thing to see, and not super interesting to edit. I don't think it's mostly just bright and selectively bring some stuff down, but everything else was worth showing up, or just showing off the final result. Okay, let's go. Where do I want to go next? Let's do some Great Falls photos. We did one of those as for the one shot last week. We might do another one for this week's one shot. If you're wondering, that was this photo. So there we go. Yeah, this photo, which will load completely in a sec. But there you go. That was this week's one shot photo. Before starting the stream, that was one of the last photos I took that day. Before starting the stream, I edited a photo from the beginning of the day, which looks like this, which kind of drives home the difference between the time of day you shoot at being important. So yeah, that one, just happy with that. That's a good all around just photo. But I really like I feel like it has a little bit less character than the nighttime shot, but I do love the colors. I love the texture in the rock, and I love that we've got this cloud that almost looks like a reflection. It almost our big rock face here kind of mirrors it. But we're gonna work on a photo that is a little different. We're gonna work on this one, where we had a guy in a kayak who actually I might do this one. Yeah, guy in a kayak who I've got the whole saga in photos. I'll show you some of them as we go. But who, kayaked up to the top of the falls and then, jumped down. So, yeah, good on him. Awesome shot. I think this might be the better shot, actually. Let's work on this. So, yeah, that's what we're going to work on right now. So let's start off, bring this down. Try to decide how much of this I want up there because I want to make sure the focus stays on him. I'm going to bring this up. We're going to bring this in a bit. I don't want to lose that rock. I don't want to lose all of the rock next to him, but I want to make sure the focus is on him. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I want to keep, he's definitely the subject. I don't want to never want to lose sight of that, but there's also the context of where he is that makes this photo awesome. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. I set this at 8:10. It's pretty close. Okay. If I do 11:17, that's cropping it way too much. 8:11 is gonna. That's all that works. 8:11 is a pretty good crop. Okay, cool. So we're going to work on this. I think he's wearing a nose plug, by the way. Which why he's got this concentrated look on his face. It's also just the light and the way everything's hitting. Okay, I think it's fun. I'm not sure how much there is to do with this photo. It's just it's a good action shot. Let's see. We're going to bring the whites down a bit because I want to make sure we keep the texture in the water. Bring the shadows up and bring the shadows down. Let's bring the shadows up a good bit and then bring the blacks down so we keep that contrast, which will be good. Clarity, not really what you want to do in this photo. That's the thing about human photography, is that you're doing a lot less of like the big aggressive adjustments like clarity and dehaze, because you end up, if you're going for something that looks more stark, and I'm willing to bet we could probably find a shot of this guy that we could do a big clarity swing. Yeah, there's not a ton to do here. I'm really happy with how this looks. I want to center him a little more. I'm gonna turn my grid on just so I can get that. There we go. All right, turn that off. Cool. Get him nice and centered. Hey Lightroom, if you were watching at any point, anyone from Adobe, even without the grid on, it would be nice to have like a mark for right where the center of the shot is. That would be handy. Of course, it might be a shortcut to turn that on. I just haven't found it yet. All right, now let's see. Let's play with some color down here. Let's also just go ahead and state this photo would look very cool in black and white, but in color, he's got that really nice bright green kayak, which is just a phenomenal piece, and that is going to be one of the things I draw tons of attention to. Okay. Blues in the water, blues on him. Good. We are going to do a little bit of this right now, and then I'm going to do a... magenta's actually in play. That's pretty cool. Reds, I'm sure, with the ends of the paddles and with his face a little bit. That's pretty good. I'm going to do some masking to selectively desaturate and resaturate certain areas. Does aqua do anything? Not really. Just kind of sort of smoothing between blue and green. That's fine. And then yellows are, I'm bringing most of these up just in slightly different amounts. Then magenta. I don't think magenta needs to do much. You can kind of just hang out there. Okay, cool. So we brought up the saturation, which is great. Let's talk luminance real quick. Not a whole lot I necessarily need to do with this. Certainly brighten up the aquas, that's fine. Brightening up the blues, that's kind of cool actually. Brightening up the blues a little bit, so we lose the halo around the paddles. And we're still getting a halo on the paddles. Let me zoom in and look at that. Yeah, you see we're getting that weird halo. You have to leave that mostly alone. Is that happening? That's happening with the... Okay, interesting. I wonder why. All right, so let's adjust. That's happening with this as well, isn't it? Yeah, huh. This is the way the light's hitting it. All right, I'm going to do that. I have to do something with that as a mask. We'll come back to that. I'm going to brighten it up because I do want the lights up there. Actually, I can do that in post. Let's leave that alone. Is the aqua doing this as well? No, not really. It's the colors. Okay, cool. What about the befores? Am I seeing that in the before shot? Not really. Something we did brighten that up. I'm gonna track that back and figure it out. Actually, we'll figure it out right now. Okay, so let's zoom in, do a little bit of reverse detective work. Some of the blues, but it's not a... The blues are in effect, but it's not the originator. That might be something to do with the color up here. It's the texture. Texture's the one that did that. Okay. We're going to do texture separately. We'll come back to this. Anyway, back to color. Zoom back out. But now I should be able to... Yeah, I should be able to crank up my colors and stuff without getting too much of that fringing around the edge. I might check the before real quick. Yeah, okay, that's part of the design. Cool. Zoom us back out. Greens. Don't need to brighten them up too much. They're actually in pretty good shape. I can bring them down even a little bit, give us a little more detail there. Same with the yellows. Yellows we can brighten up a bit, give us more contrast with the greens. That's all cool. Yeah, a little bit of that's not bad. Oranges. I like bringing the oranges up. Might be too much. And then reds. Bring the reds up a little bit and the orange up a little bit. Without overexposing. We're getting too much of a halo around those things. A little bit of one. I want just a little bit. There we go. Because I want to brighten his face up, but I can also do that as a mask. So we'll go from there. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me try out of curiosity. What if I off-centered him? There's something kind of cool about that. There genuinely is. Keeping that rock in the shot. Unlock this and extend this down. Extend this over so it's like that. Not a bad version. I think I'll stick with this for now. Okay. Let's start doing some masks. Main one, select subject. Let's start with that. A little bit of neck cracking there. Select subject. You got nothing. Interesting. Does not think there's a subject. Okay. Sorry, guys. This photo has no subject. Get rid of that mask. Okay. Let me try an object selection then. I should be able to just sort of brush in the area that is him, and it will search that area for objects, and it should hopefully find him. We'll see how that works. This one takes a little while. There we go. Okay, cool. So we got him. Excellent. So now I can adjust various details on him and not. And we can. All right. Let's set this to 60%. So I get a good. I see him and the area around him. He looks like he's floating there. I mean, kind of is, which is phenomenal. Okay, so I can bring up the texture without getting too much of a fringy haze around him, which is good. Could bring up the highlights. Don't really need to, honestly. I kind of like, he's pretty well exposed. I may brighten up his face as a separate mask in a second, but everything else looks pretty good. I can bring up the saturation on him. I don't really want to. There's not much to do there. And again, if I crank up the clarity, you get this really aggressive shadows, a really aggressive contrast and texture, which I do not necessarily want. Dehazing a little kind of helps pull his face out of that and makes him stand out from the white. I'll do that at about 10. Cool. Okay. So now we're going to do a duplicate and invert. And now I've got everything else, which is great. So I can crank the saturation on that. Not quite that much, a little bit. I want to try at least one version of this where there's a ton of saturation. Push this a little bit. Yeah, pushing it a little bit toward green gives it some interesting look. If I push it a little bit toward blue, maybe not that much. Like that, we get some really nice. Yeah, that makes it interesting. Let's do this as -10. Yeah, let's do a -5. Let's bring it down even more so it's not overpowering. Yeah, you know, take it back 10. -10, thank you. Yeah, something like that. Cool. All right. This is something I could crank the texture on even more, which I think I'm going to, provided it doesn't destroy him. And it doesn't seem to be. That seems to look pretty good. Because getting the texture up on the water is an awesome thing to do. Nope. So if I bring the texture up too much, we are going to get that fringing on the paddles. All right, so let's see, where's the line there? Something like that, about 26. I think I can live with that in a wide shot. Yeah, looks good. Could bring up the clarity. Darken up the water a little bit. I like that, actually. I don't mind that at all. Just a tiny bit. Shadows. Yeah, brightening up the shadows. And blacks down a bit. Yeah, let's do it like that. I'm going to go back to my crop for a second. My thoughts are either keep the whole top or bring yeah, let's come down from that. Let's lose that extra line. Even bring it down to here. That does look better. That does clean it up a good bit. What if I widen this all the way? Get him centered. Pull this up so we clear that little rock down there. Okay. That's the crop. That looks great. That feels very much like it's about him. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's go back to our masking. Back to here. We already cranked up the texture on him. Let's come in at 100%. And let's do a mask for his face, which thankfully, I guess I'm doing this with a brush. He's wearing this, like that nice, this balaclava kind of thing. neoprene headpiece. I'm sure. There's some shots where I've got it where he's standing up and you can see that he's obviously wearing a wetsuit, which you should be. The water is freezing, and you should be wearing a wetsuit in general. This kind of thing, both for warmth and protection. But yeah, so he's wearing a wetsuit, which includes the headpiece, which is great. And we can go ahead and bring up the highlights on his face to make that stand out. I'm going to desaturate it a little bit, not much, just a bit to get him down to a more normal looking skin tone, because we did bring those colors up. Bring up the shadows a bit. It's sort of reducing the contrast, but that's good. Bring the blacks down, the whites down. Good. So I take the mask off. I turn it back on. There we go. Brightens his face nice up just like that. It's a little bit brighter than it needs to be. Let's take this to 45. Yeah. 50. There we go. So his face is still, it's a bright element right in the center of the shot, so we see it, we notice it, without it sticking out way too much unnaturally. There we go. Let's go with this. Give that 3 stars. If anybody, by the way, again, if anybody, like I say this on stream a lot when I'm working with when I've got photos of people who I don't necessarily know. If anybody has, if anyone knows someone, like if there's any way to find out who was kayaking Great Falls on this day, that would be awesome. Be a fantastic. I would love to be able to give this guy copies of these photos. Okay, let's do a couple more. Don't do a couple more. Let's see what else we got. There's a couple more shots of him that I at least want to look at, whether we do or not. So this was shots of the water when I lost sight of him. Here we go. Here he is up at the top. Yeah. So basically, where's a wide shot of the falls here? I think I've got one that's closer to the actual, something like this. Okay. So here's the area. This is the other side of that big Central Falls piece. This guy, I don't think I've got a shot of it. I got a wider shot. This actually helps. Okay. So this guy was coming up river from down here. He came up through this little cove, got to this point. I've got photos of this, but it's easier to explain in wides. Got to this point, climbed up, got out, carried the kayak up there, paddled across to here, to this spot right here, climbed up, went up to there, and then came down and went down this, and then worked his way back down the river. So I've got some shots like this where you really get to see the height and the size of those waves. It's like, it's hard to tell in other shots, but man, you're going up against something very powerful when you do that. Let's see which of these shots is the one to work on. Probably this one. Let's play with this one a little bit. It's got the right energy that I want. So let's do this. Bring this down. Before I finish that crop, let's bring up some texture and let's see what we got in terms of, there we go. Okay, let's bring that down. Let's up the texture on everything. I want the shot to be, and this is a shot. Bringing up the clarity is a good idea because I want the focus to be man versus giant, like, cascade of water. Can dehaze a little bit. I think I'm gonna do this one in either in black and white or low saturation. I'm doing low saturation. I'm going to desaturate pretty much everything but his canoe, or kayak canoe. Wow. Yeah, don't try to canoe these falls. That seems like an even less safe idea. And here you go, real quick. You can see there's the wetsuit. There's the wetsuit shoes. Like, he's got the helmet, he's got the whole kit, which is what you absolutely should have. I have gone whitewater rafting a few times in my life. I have never attempted something like this. And it is, I don't know if I would love to be able to do it. I'm not brave enough right now to try to attempt that. So, and if I was, I would be wearing more gear than he is and checking and double checking it the whole time. So just, be cognizant of that. All right, that looks good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's starting out. We're going to do some individual stuff on him and on the area around him. But that water looks good. The water's looking pretty sharp. Let's see. Dehazing actually on this is a good idea because it's gonna help bring up that aggressive contrast that I'm now gonna sort of undo a little bit by playing with color. All right, yellows. I want to do this. So I want to do it as with masks. I think doing this with masks is going to be the better way to go, as opposed to doing it with the color sliders. I use the color sliders for fine tuning. Let's mask some stuff. Start by selecting subject. Let me see what it gives me. See if it thinks there's a subject to this photo. It does. Good. Thinks it's him. Excellent. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in 100%. Keep my navigator up, please. 100%. I'm going to do an add color range. And I want his paddle. I'm going to bring that down so it's pretty much just... Okay, that's not... You know what? I've been really disappointed so far with the range tools on Lightroom. Sometimes they're like, most of the time the criteria they're going for, the criteria I'm editing for are very different. For some reason, not sure why, but yeah, the color range and the luminance range. I feel like the times that I get them to work, I could have done a lot of the same stuff just with a brush. So I'm gonna do this with a brush. There we go. Cool. So we've got his head, we've got the kayak, and we've got the paddle. Good. That's what we're gonna work with. Okay. So step one, let's put that clarity down a little bit so it's a little softer, which is fine. Bring the texture down a little bit. I don't want to do too much there. Highlights up. Good. Excellent. Saturation up. Also important. Want to make sure that sticks out like crazy. Yeah, that's not much more I need to do with that. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Big thing I want to do is a duplicate and invert. I want to get the rest of this. Let me do an overlay on black and white, just double check something. Okay, that looks fine. Let me do a quick subtract brush. And just, actually I don't need this. I can just do it with this brush because it's already a subtract brush. We can just subtract, make sure we get his helmet in there. I don't want to have some disconnect there if I'm going to play with light. Cool, that looks fine. Yeah, it's that little floating handle there. And with here, we're going to desaturate. We're going to desaturate the heck out of that. Pretty much, yeah, down to there. Highlights can come up a bit, which is good. Texture, no, texture is staying right where it is. Clarity, can bring that up even more. I don't mind that. Contrast. I'm going to do that separately. Bring the blacks down is a good idea, though. Actually, I could do it with highlights and blacks here. I think that might work. It's a decent start. Okay, cool. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We'll stick with that. Next thing. What don't I like about this? That is a very harsh edge. I don't know if it bothers me too much. I'm pretty okay with it for now. What caused it? Was it the clarity? Wasn't the clarity? I'm not sure what caused it. Is it using clarity down here? No. Texture? Nope. Not that. That's not the problem. Undo that. Let's bring the saturation back down on him. I don't think it needs to be that aggressive now that I've desaturated everything else. It's fine. Yeah, leave that as is. Cool. I'm okay with that. Okay. Don't need to go back to cropping. Let's go back to masking. Actually, hang on a sec. Now that we're desaturating, I can do some color. I'll play with color a little bit. Blues. Bring the blues down. Luminance wise, we can bring them up. Now we gotta leave saturation color alone. That's fine. Can bring up the greens and really push the. I would love to find a way to soften the edge of that kayak. I don't know why it's that harsh. It's a little more aggressive than I need it to be, but that's fine. Bring up the reds is good. Looking for stuff that's not going to affect anything else. Aqua's not really affecting anything at all. That's fine. Yeah, this is all fine. I'm going to do something with the rock face as well, because this brightness over here is distracting me. But for now, let's come down to our luminance panel, because that's going to be important. Brightening up the greens. That's actually, I'm going to get rid of that edge. That's excellent. We're going to brighten up the greens. That's what we'll do. And it's also brightening up brightening up the aquas there. That now has an effect. But it's also helping to give us some character in the water there, which is excellent. Oranges, we're gonna leave them alone. I want to do that separately. Blues. Yeah, let's bring those down. Let's leave it something like that. we're going to work on that section again. Okay, new mask. I'm going to try another luminance range. I'm going to see, or luminance range. So I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Okay, let's go up to the adjustments. That is... Nah, it's not really working for me. All right, get rid of that. I'm going to try another color range, just because I'd love one of these to work, because it does work. It eliminates a lot of extra work that I have to do, but no, it's being kind of obnoxious. Lose that. Let me try one more with an object select, which, as we know, will take a minute. Okay. I'm going to try to tell it to get this whole... What I want is this whole ridge. I want all the rocks so that I can play with them. Let's get this. Let's come down under him. Come out to here. Something like that. Let's try that and see what it gets. See if I can find it that way. I'm going to be darkening this up a lot, and it doesn't really matter the rock behind him because it is very dark and it's blocking his legs, which is fine. So I'm not too worried about that, other than just kind of wanting to... That works. That's good. I like that a lot. Okay, cool. So now I can bring down the highlights. I can desaturate it, which is important. Bring down the shadows. There we go. Texture. Bring the texture up and the clarity up a little bit. And bring the whites down. I'm basically just reducing the exposure on it. Just that tiniest bit. Let's leave the shadows where they are. Yeah, there we go. Get some detail in there. These areas over here I would like to darken. I'm probably going to do something else with them. Dehazing. No, dehazing is going to darken. Yeah, okay, cool. Could play with the color temp, which will actually help a lot. Now I think about not looking at that. That's pretty cool. Gives me something without it being too... It's underexposed intentionally. I'm okay with that. I just wanted to check and see what that was at. Good. Okay, so new brush, or new mask. Give me a brush. And we're just going to get this section here. And this section here. And we are going to bring the highlights down on them. And the whites as well. Shadows too a little bit. There we go. Get them to be part of the rock face and less of the focus. I don't want them drawing attention. I want the detail in there, but I don't want them drawing attention away from what we're doing. And now I can bring up the highlights on this without fear of them being too bright and distracting. That looks good. Dehaze a little if I want to, don't know if I need to. I want just the tiniest bit of detail, just enough. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to do duplicate and invert, which gets me all of this, which is good. Now we're going to subtract our subject. Oop, that's the sky. Don't do that. There is no sky. You will not find a sky. Subtract subject. Good. And that gets rid of him, which is good. And now I can also do a subtract. I'm gonna use this with a brush. It's easiest. This mask is about the water. This mask is about the water and the brightness. So we're gonna get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this little section here for the most part. We're going to get rid of this stuff here. We're going to clean this up. Anything that's down here that's hidden behind this rock. Get rid of all that. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. I'm going to zoom in to work on it. 60% should be good. There we go. Clean the mask off his feet. Same here. Come on. There we go. Slowly subtracting here. Good. Let's get rid of that. Let's clean up this edge. Let's clean up this edge a bit. Good. Some of these sections here. Good. Cool. And And then once again, got to clean a little bit off of his helmet. Good. Cool. So now we've got mostly pretty much just the water selected, which means I can now adjust it, and I can keep it. I can get it bright while keeping the details in it. Yeah, there we go. Bring that saturation down one more time just to make sure we're not getting anything in there that we don't want. This, yeah, contrast up a little bit. Nah, you want it to be chaotic without being unrealistic. There we go. But that's not too bad, actually. Okay, yeah. Let's see. Cool. All right, let me check one other thing. If I come in here, just do a real soft brush. Running along the edge of his kayak. Undo. Does that help get rid of that line? It does actually. That's actually very helpful. Okay, so we're just gonna do the same thing. A little bit of very, just kind of not so much the letting the main brush, just like kind of the edge of the feather. Just kind of like the outer ring of that brush. Just go around. Good. Actually helped a good bit. Yeah. Cool. Come back to here. 3 stars. That looks pretty good. Man versus the world. I'm happy about that. Okay, one more photo to do. We're gonna jump to. I'm just doing a short stream tonight. Gonna do a one shot at some point this week, so probably tomorrow night. I'm not sure what we're gonna do, but we'll find something. And then let's do. So yesterday I got to do a really cool thing. Where's this? It's up here. And I got to go to the Devil's Marble Yard, which is a gorgeous little hike over by Natural Bridge, so the other side of Virginia. And it's about 1.5 miles, mile and change of hiking, and then the rest of it is bouldering up this magnificent boulder field. Yeah, for reference, the parking lot that we started at is kind of back there, kind of in that clearing. And so you hike through all this, you get to the base, and then you climb, and you get up to here, which is cool. This isn't quite from the top. This is kind of about 2/3 up, if I remember. So this is the photo I've already edited, obviously. The original looks like that. So yeah. And what I want to do, let's see, what photo do I want to edit? There's a bunch of them that I took. Did a bunch of double exposures, did a couple panoramas. So let's see, what catches my eye right now? I liked this little house sitting out there with giving me the bright sunlight on the roof. I like that a lot. Let's see, where's that panorama that I did? This one here. This brings us all the way around to the other side. So let's go ahead and do this one. First thing to do when I'm doing a merge is profile corrections and chromatic aberrations. Let's take those off. Let's come to here. Yeah, that's the whole collection. And let's synchronize just the lens corrections for now. So that'll sync those. And then I'll do Control M, or you can go to Photo, and there's a thing for Merge. And let's see what we get as it tries to create a preview. All right, all 12 images successfully merged. That looks really, really good, actually. right, let's see what the cylindrical one looks like. I'm always a fan because the cylindrical one usually kind of gives me a little more height, which I like. Yes, a little more height there, which is nice though. Let me tell it to do auto settings, see what it gives me. Cylindrical. Yeah, cylindrical is probably better. All right, and now I can tell it to fill the edges, which I worry about with something like this, because the detail with edge filling can be, it can end up, sometimes it's AI based, and sometimes that can really work, and sometimes it can't. This doesn't look too bad though. I'm not seeing a whole lot of like weird copying. Maybe there? A little bit. That's not too bad. This is also a photo that doesn't have a whole lot of issues anyway, so I can probably just boundary warp. Crank that all the way up, and it'll just, yeah, just adjust it like that. You know, let's kind of do half and half. Half and half is probably the way to go. For reference, one of the things that, so I'm gonna be clicking on and off this a little bit just to see how it's looking, to make sure I'm not gonna get any glitches when I do it. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, cool. We skip a little bit. One of the things that I think that I want to talk about here with taking a panorama while this thing's doing its merge is usually when you think of doing a panorama, you think of you're doing it on your phone, and you think of like, all right, hold the phone out and just sort of scan it across the horizon. You can also, you know, you can do them vertically on your phone as well. I like to do vertical panoramas for a couple of reasons. I mean, the main reason being, yeah, a couple of reasons. The main reason being that when you do it like this, when you do it horizontally, which I also have an actual camera here, so I can demonstrate that way. When you do it like that, you get a very, you get that width, but you also get a very thin photo, which makes it hard to print, makes it hard to frame, makes it a, it's a difficult thing to share because it's this very long, thin photo. If you shoot it as portrait, and you shoot it kind of going this way, you can do this on your phone as well. You keep some of the height, so you're able to keep bumping the mic. Sorry guys. So you're able to get a shot that looks like this, and it's a very wide photo of the landscape while still being, very wide photo of the landscape while still being, while still having height enough that it's a panorama, but it's still, you can share this a lot easier. The other thing about this that you get is by doing panoramas, you get more detail. You get some really, really nice detail in all of this. Like that looks beautiful. And then coming all around here, like this tree that is much closer to us looks phenomenal. And you've got the rocks kind of throughout the whole thing. So this photo looks amazing. Step one, I need to adjust my horizon a bit. And this one's a bit weird because you can't really see the horizon. So I'm kind of guessing. But something like that, I think, is pretty close. That's a bit much. Let's go to negative 1.4. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up. Get this much in here as I can. Take a look at that. That's better. Okay, good. I can move it left and right. Yeah, moving it. I actually want to get that tree out of there anyway, so that's good. We get this tree and this little patch of path as our framing on one side, and we get these nice big rocks as frame on the other side. Actually, I might crop it a little bit more to there. Though you lose some of the mound there. Well, I just did it tree to tree. Tree to little bush. Which I thought actually was a decent sized tree. Something like that. I don't know. I think the more as I look at this, I like having a lot of the majority of the marble yard there. I like having much as I can in the foreground. So we're gonna keep that. I might want to adjust that angle a little bit more just to bring more of that in, but we'll start with this. Okay, cool. So it's already done some settings for me, which I'm going to more or less undo as I adjust, because it never touches the settings that I like. So it always likes to start with light, and I like to start with texture and clarity. So we're going to start with that. Okay, a lot of good detail there we can play with. How's our sky? Overexposed? A bit overexposed. That's fine, because you brought the whites up for some reason. Don't know why you felt the need to do that. Yeah, you bring the whites down, you lose that overexposure problem. That's the other thing, is there's so much you can do with masking. I'm gonna put all these back. I'm going to do this myself. Okay. So I do want to bring the highlights down. Highlights across the board can come down. They're not. Actually, let's bring them down a little bit. I'm going to do this mostly with the sky. Let's mask the sky as a starter. Sky mask. I'm actually crop this in on the other side, lose that tree and stuff, and just kind of come to the edge of the mountains. But we'll start with this. So start by masking the sky, highlights and whites down. Whites can stay, actually. Bring the exposure down. That's what I want to do. Bring that exposure down a bit, kind of like that. Keep the shadows up. The blacks up a bit. Clarity. I could dehaze the hell out of it, which will sort of... Nah, we're not going to get... Maybe an opportunity for a sky replacement. I don't do them very often. This could be an opportunity to kind of clean something like that up. But actually, this looks pretty good. I'm actually very happy with that. Okay, cool. Let me go back to the crop real fast. I'm just curious if I was to crop this in and just focus on the dip and the curve of the peaks and the valley down there. So first off, instead of pulling that in like that, I can start by pushing it this way, and I can pull it in a little bit less. Feels unbalanced to me now. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it like that. Let's edit, redo texture adjustment. Cool. All right, that's looking decent. Our sky. That's another reason to do panoramas. You have that nice high quality, and you don't have a lot of noise, which is great. Cool. All right, so the sky is not overexposed, but we're not going to be able to darken that down. Like I can pull the exposure way down. And you're still just pulling it to blackness. So we're not gonna do much get much more out of the sky. So we're gonna work on everything else. I'm coming down here to color. I want to start with color. I want to bring up the blues. Bring up the blues. It's the Blue Ridge Mountains. They look amazing. I want to highlight that. Purples and aquas. Everything around the blues that gets their attention. Reds, not really in play. A little bit, but down there, but not enough to worry about. Oranges. There's a lot of orange in there. There's orange in the rocks. I'm going to do something about that valley right in front of us because it is not the prettiest thing in the world. But bring up the orange in the rocks, and then I'm going to bring up the luminance of yellow. So the orange in the rocks gets the saturation and gets powered up, and then I brighten up everything else so the rocks get that nice white underline for the rest of the photo. Greens, not so much yet. We'll come back to them. Blues, I can brighten them up a little bit. Aquas. Actually, let's brighten the aquas kind of up to there and bring the blues down a bit, actually, without getting too much of a fringe line there. And then purple. Let's turn the purples up. One of the things I loved about this spot was seeing like these peaks back here, this kind of rolling little landscape. I thought was awesome. And as we all know, at one point this land was this landscape was underneath a glacier. And we talk about this. The way we know that is because any mountain that is rounded, any mountain with a rounded top at one point had a glacier on it. So glaciers reach this far south. Yeah, we're gonna get kind of this whole area. I'm probably gonna include let's include these trees for now. I'm gonna play with the color as well, but let's include them for now because I want to get everything behind them as well. There we go. Let's come over here, and this is what we're gonna do to fix that area. This is what happens when you go take photos during the wrong time of year. Not the wrong time of year, a different time of year. There we go. Cool. So now let's keep this going. I'm going to adjust this amount. I've gone up a little higher than I want to for the purposes of being able to see the difference as I adjust. Cool, something like that. Now I'm going to crank up the size of this a little bit, and just so I can let the feather sort of slide along that valley to make it look a little more like it smooths in a little bit, like that, a little more natural. Good. Oop, too much. One click too many. There we go. Better. Okay, cool. So now, hitting the camera. So now we can bring the greens back down a little bit. Not too much. We can push them to yellow. We can push them to blue. Pushing to yellow is actually not too bad. A tiny bit. But I don't want them to overshadow. So Bring those blacks down a bit so they kind of feel like our color is sort of our brightest colors are blues, and our eye kind of gets guided back to here, and then the rocks are, like I said, are our underline. But that does look a little bit, that does need a little more contrast to it, because it does look a little bit, it's a little too bright and a little too something else. Something like that looks pretty good. All right, texture. I think I need to play with texture as a global adjustment. I'm not sure I did anything with that yet. Let me see. Did I? I didn't. Let's crank that up. Let's crank up that texture. Good. There we go. Let's get that texture in that photo. I like landscapes with texture are hugely important to me. Clarity. A little bit of clarity helps define it a little bit more. That's good. All right. Next thing, I'm going to duplicate this mask, which is going to make it look horrendous. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to. Let's set the colors back to where they were, which will help. Let's put everything back the way it was. Cool. And now we're going to push it to purple. Like, legit to purple. I'm going to push it to purple. I'm going to push it toward blue. This is going to look absolutely awful intentionally for now. There we go. A little bit of purple. We're going to haze it up a bit. Something like that. We're going to brighten the highlights. We're going to brighten up the, not so much brighten up the shadows that much. Shadows are going to be, shadows are automatically going to do something like that with us. Cool. Bring the saturation down. Kind of like that. Let's come back to our brush. I want to make sure I get this edge in here, which is good. There we go. Make sure I get all the sections in here. Make sure I get that edge. Same deal over here. Let's make sure we get these edges. Edges. Good. Let's get those edges nice and better defined. Good. All right, let's put the purple back a little bit less and put the blues up a little bit more. Something like that. Okay, that looks horrendous in the best way. Pretty happy with that. I dehazed it a bit. Texture can stay where it is. Clarity. We could play with the clarity slider a little more. Don't really need to, other than just having it a little bit brighter. But actually, I kind of like bringing the clarity up. It makes it more aggressive. Okay, and then we're going to do a subtract brush. And here's where we're going to make this look better. Subtract brush with the density at like 67%. And we are going to start cleaning this whole area up. Just like that. That is too strong of a brush. Let's try that again. Subtract the brush with the density at, let's say, 40%. And that way we're going to keep, yeah, there we go. We're going to keep little bits of this. And I will come back and adjust more as I go. Let me see the overlay. So you're going to see we're leaving a little bit behind, leaving a decent amount behind as I clean this up. Okay, turn that off. Good. To start. All right. This section here more than anything else. Come up here, this section up here. Good. And now we're going to crank that density up higher. And we're going to come back down. And we're going to get a little more out of here. Kind of good. And we're going to bring that density down lower. And we're going to clean up this a little bit. I don't put the density back up, but use flow. I don't use flow that often because I like this density is nice. But here I do want to actually be able to sort of run that brush around this and sort of clean it up. Let's see the overlay. So yeah, we're just about there. Let's crank that flow up a little bit more. Get it to be something a little more noticeable. There we go. Good. Cleaning that up. Overlay off. Though in hindsight, don't love that. Yeah, a little section back there is actually pretty nice. But cleaning this up is a good idea. Cleaning up this area down here. Yeah, as we work our way through it. Okay, cool. I'm decently happy with that. Let's bring the flow back down. Let's get this section here. Kind of like that. kind of like this. Okay. Yeah, that's looking pretty interesting. I'm pretty happy with that. Gonna push the whole thing a little bit more blue. More purple. Give it some interesting character. I'm really happy with how that's looking as we go along. Let's clean up this. Flow back up to usable. Concept-wise, it kind of makes sense that like let's find the right amount here. This brush. Do one more quick update here. This brush here we need to get this section back so I can tweak it a little better. There we go. Gotta get the little bits right. Okay, cool. If there's anything else I want to do with this, let me try an object select. Just out of curiosity to see if I can get it to pick up this tree. If I can get to pick up this tree is right at the end here. This. Not too bad. I think I might be able to work with that. Pick up the highlights and desaturate a bit. Subtract brush. That's the other thing about doing a panorama is that the photo is much bigger just in general. So there's a nice element of, yeah, you can zoom in more, you can print it bigger, which is nice if you're going to do that. But cool. Okay. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. But one other thing I want to experiment with is just a new mask brush. Let this be a little bigger. We're just gonna zigzag our way through here down to that, just like this area here. I'm gonna bring up the highlights and the whites. And we're going to bring the brush density down, and we are going to sort of frame out the rest of this area here. There we go. Leave that where it is. It's already been textured all the way up. I can dehaze it more and darken it up. I don't want to do that. Yeah, that little bit will just help guide our eye through the valley here and out to that area. So cool. So do that. All right. So yeah, that's a quick little edit from a shot from Devil's Marble Yard. Let's go ahead and give that its 3 stars. Yeah. So those are the photos from today. Thank you for joining me for this little kind of quiet little live stream. Definitely gave me a little bit of help me relax, help me wrap up my day. There will be another one shot coming up tomorrow evening. My usual late night single photo edit. Not sure what we're gonna do. Might do another Devil's Marble Yard shot because I've got a few of those. Might do another Great Falls one. I spent the whole day shooting there, and there's some really cool ones that I haven't even touched yet. Might get back to Fort Monroe, see what we got. But yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for being part of this. It's wonderful to have people I can share this with. Postcards available. erichackler.com/photography. You can find those there. If you Top Posters magazine for my new cover, which apparently is happening and very cool. So, and as I always say, these prints are available on my Etsy store or on my website, wherever you want to go. Again, erichackler.com/photography. We'll give you links to both. All right. With that all said, be safe, be well, keep making good art, spend some of your day being creative. It's, nourish your soul, and then share it and nourish the world around you. So stay safe, be well. We'll do this again.